Hey everybody, it's Ron, and today I'm going to be talking about Children of Dune, the end of the first Dune Trilogy focusing on the Atreides family. After finishing Dune Messiah, I was really excited to start reading about Paul's pre-born twins, Leto II and Ghanima. With their mother dead and their father, Paul, also presumed dead from wandering in the desert, the children are originally under the protection of Stilgar. It makes sense that they would be born into the Fremen culture, and from the beginning of the books, it's made clear that they're safer out there than with Alia in Arrakeen for the most part. The Corrinos have a larger presence in this book as well, with another plot to destroy the Atreides, but I'm hesitant to call them the antagonist in this, because the more I think about it, I don't think there's a single character in this book that you're supposed to like. From the start of this whole series, nothing is really black or white, but you find yourself rooting for someone like Duke Leto or Paul, and I don't think there are any clear-cut good guys or bad guys in this. This is also evident with Lady Jessica, who returns in this book early on, and it was great to have her and Gurney Halleck back because they were absent in the previous book. Jessica went back to her home planet, Caladan, and she left because she didn't want to stick around with not only one abomination, her daughter Alia, but also the twins who shared the same abilities. The first thing that struck me was how cold the Atreides family is to each other. Alia doesn't greet her mother with a warm welcome, and the twins don't necessarily take kindly to their grandmother as well. There's a theme of abandonment throughout the novel, and this makes Alia a very tragic character. In Dune Messiah, you can tell that Alia didn't ask for any of this. Although he regrets it later, Paul did decide to rise up and become a leader at the end of the first novel. But Alia is different because she was born into this family and suffers from most of the memories of her ancestors. They eventually get the better of her, and she becomes possessed by her grandfather, the Baron Harkonnen. This makes her story even more tragic because while she's not the most good-natured character by any means, the Baron does make her do a lot of things in this book that she probably wouldn't have on her own. One of the things I really loved about this book was the tangled web of betrayals and scheming between literally everyone. It's difficult to know where certain loyalties lie in the beginning, and it gets even more complex as the story unfolds. The Corrinos attempt an assassination on the twins, Alia attempts an assassination on her mother, Gurney ends up capturing Leto under what he thinks are orders from Lady Jessica, Jessica ends up on Seleucus Secundus, training Prince Farad'n in the Bene Gesserit way, and so on. The Preacher is an interesting character because even though I was pretty sure it was Paul, Herbert writes it in such a way where he still keeps you guessing until finally, towards the end of the book, he reveals himself. The theme of abandonment is also prevalent with Leto's role in the book, and he finally meets his father at the end. I thought that section of the book was cool, but again, it was such a cold meeting and interaction. It wasn't like Paul was happy to see anyone he knew in his previous life, and there's an odd detachment there with his character. He doesn't necessarily embrace his son even though he does accompany him, and he also isn't thrilled to see Gurney Halleck as well. I felt for Gurney as a reader when he continuously keeps asking if the Preacher is Paul out of total frustration. The interesting thing about this book is that when Leto II is basically being held captive and tortured by heavy doses of melange, you want him to break out and get his revenge. But as soon as he does break free and merge with the sand trout to become more than human, he immediately starts destroying villages and wreaking havoc in the name of his golden path. As soon as he starts down his path of being a tyrannical leader, I didn't see him as a protagonist, and I didn't think I was ever supposed to. Maybe it's because I'm conditioned to look for that in stories, but that's not what this series is about. Once again, I thought it was pretty tragic that towards the end, so many characters that we've followed meet their demise in such a quick way. Paul is taken down by a knife in Arrakeen while doing a speech, and Alia throws herself out the window before being taken over completely by the Baron. It's sad to see Stilgar in slight opposition to Leto II's new rule, because he knows that the Fremen and even the ecology of Arrakis will be changed forever, and he's very resistant to this. It's unclear what eventually happens to characters like Stilgar and Gurney at the end of this book, and it's left pretty open-ended. I wonder if they are at least mentioned in the next book, because I know it takes place in the far future, since it's stated in this book that Leto can live for thousands of years in his new skin. It's unclear to me if Paul was okay with what Leto's plan was for humanity, because he does end up going to Arrakeen with him, and you could tell that he despises himself and his family. He wants to undo the legend of Muad'Dib. Him and Alia did not want to go through with the possible future path that Leto seems unafraid to go down for the benefit of humanity, so it seems like he will take it further than Paul or Alia ever did in their role. I thought it was a solid ending for this part of the story, and it was also kind of sad to read at the end because I know besides Leto too, all of these characters that I've gotten to know over the last 3 books won't be involved anymore. But I'm going to keep an open mind going into God Emperor of Dune, which is the 4th book. I've heard it's very different, but I'm interested in Leto as a character, so I'm still looking forward to it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe if you're into this type of content. Take care.